The views, comments, and opinions of the following program do not necessarily reflect those of Morris Media Studios, MorrisMediaLive.com, or its affiliates. Listener discretion is advised.
Friday, and I'm Brenda, Morris Media Live Studios, and welcome to, we have a new title for our show, and we're working on our logo. But it's Welcome to the Next Level Convo with Brenda, and that's me. Good morning, good morning. It's Friday, which is usually my Monday, but I'm enjoying it. I want everybody to have a safe and wonderful weekend, and it is once again Morris Media Studios Live. Well, good morning. Well, I guess I have several different interesting topics, but as I always do, I would still like to continue off with "And the Marathon Continues." And I always open up with Nip's Corner, because I think it's important for us to understand what this brother did, background to his transition into becoming a young man, a young entrepreneur, and a person that understood the community and really wanted to do something in the community to make a difference. And there are a lot of people out there like that. We just have to find them, or they need to find us so we can talk about it. But for him, I felt it was important because when I heard the marathon continues, I didn't think about the store, or I didn't think about him generating any capital. The very first thing came to my mind is that it is a culture, it's Black culture, and that we need to understand that we can do better. And I believe that he was expressing our culture from his whole lifestyle all the way up to the time of this unfortunate event happening. So for me, I just can't let it die. I can't because it was just too much of an impact in my own personal life. It made me move differently. It made me think about things differently. And it made me look at things, as he would say, from a bird's view. Not just being in it, because when we're in it, we really can't see all angles, all perspectives, because either we're emotionally connected to it or we have our own motives for being connected to whatever situation. So the bird's eye view is saying, let's look at it differently. Let's look at it from a different angle and not always being the victim, which oftentimes African Americans are the victim, but we can't play the victim anymore. We have to say, are we a participant in whatever the situation is? before we take on the victim role. So he just made me look at things a lot different. And one of the things that he said that I found very interesting was he said that he gets money every day of the week. He said he goes hard. I don't sleep. You don't grind, you don't eat in this world. He said, there's nothing free. And, I kept looking over the quote because there was many of them for me to choose from. But I kept looking at that. And when he says all money in, I understand what that means. And I get money, not just from a negative perspective, because just getting money sometimes is just not enough. But if you go hard, it's continuous money. What they call it, residuals? And that's the kind of money that you want to get. You want to keep your money coming in, and not just from a job that you work from every day and 9 to 5, because as we know, the corporations or whoever hire us, they're making the real money, and we're just a participant in their game of making money. So we have to change it and understand how can we be that person that create a job or hire someone. But he said that he goes hard, and that's how we have to be. And I know we take a lot of stuff for granted. I have. Let's talk personally. We cannot take things for granted. We have to go hard. We have to say, this is not enough. This is unacceptable. I need more. I want more. I deserve more. I can get more. I can do it. Whatever your grind is, and that's just a terminology that's used in our culture, which means, how are you working? So whatever it is, whatever you're working for, I got from his quote, you do have to grind hard at it. That means you have to do something every day towards reaching your goal, other than talk about it. You have to have a plan with execution dates. And that's how you continue the grind. That's how you continue to make things happen. It's saying, what's next? I told you guys before, I loved the Game of Thrones in the early part of it, because there was that one question that would pop up all the time from various characters. And it would be, what's next? So that led me to believe that we need to always be on what's next. What are we doing, but what's next? What's going to happen after that? And I think that leading into another side conversation, which all these conversations just leads into side conversations. One of the other things that leads to, which is what's next, is planning and being ahead. And I know it's difficult sometimes because you just want to let me just get through this day. And I'll deal with tomorrow. And I understand that. And the sayings, tomorrow's not promised to anybody. We understand all that. And I'm not taking away anything from none of those concepts or thoughts or philosophies. I'm just saying that if we're still breathing, we need to have a plan. I mean, there is the overall plan. Nobody can obstruct what is for each individual from a belief standpoint. But if you are fortunate enough to wake up, then you should be fortunate enough to say, I have a plan for today. This is what I need to do to get me to where I need to go. He said that if you want to eat, you have to produce something. And it can be anything. But if you want to eat, you want to have food on your table, that means what did I do to put the food on my table? And there's a lot of factors involved, a lot of different variations of different things that's running through my mind right now, But what I have realized is that it's true. You really do have to work for what you want. Now, you can work smart. You don't have to work crazy, but you have to work smart. I realize just working smart, making the best possible moves for you that could give you the best possible return with the less resistance is the road that you really want to go. But I also, as I was going through his quotes and I went through his book list, and so I wanted to challenge any of the listeners to let's pick one book off of the list and let's read it. Although I've already had the opportunity to read several off of the list that he had, but I thought it would be great if we could just do maybe some form of book challenge. Just so we could read more, because reading brings on knowledge, information, and I'm a firm believer that the more information that we have, the better we can make our decisions. by. So I did look through the book list and I found one that I thought was quite interesting, and this is Nip's book list. It was The Art and Science of Respect. The title alone just really got me because I do understand there's a science to how we move in this society. We might not be aware of it, but that's why they have science, because everything is a science. And I thought that was interesting. The Art and Science of Respect by James Prince. And so I said, okay, so the title grabbed me first. I was like, okay, because respect is what we all deserve. If you are not disrespecting people, you are not wilding out, you are not, just being a savage, then you understand respect. But in order to receive it, you do have to give it. But I thought the book was interesting. It was one of them that I didn't have and I had not read. So I said, let me just kind of get into it and see. Because I love to read, so it's never a problem for me. Some books are hard reads and some books are easy to read. And once I got the book and I started reading it, I found that it's a very easy read. But it's really good. James Prince is actually, he was an individual that presided over Rap-A-Lot Records. And so I said, okay, I could see the sense in him reading that, understanding someone else's path. Because one of the things that we really do have to do is realize that we do not have to invent the wheel. There are things that has happened, that paths that we want to go down, that people have already went down that road. And all we have to do is just improve what they've already done. So you do not have to invent anything. All you have to do is seek out that path, seek out people that have took that path. I mean, some of it is going to be, some paths were a little bit smoother than others, but when I started in on this book, I realized that his path was really rough because James Prince was from the 5th Ward of Texas, and that the research showed that that was really a tough situation to be in, period. When we say ghetto or lower economic areas, even in California, it's bad, but when I researched the 5th Ward, it was something else. A lot of things were going on a daily. And so this young brother who wrote this book that Nipsey read, he went through these struggles and trials and tribulations of everyday life of just survival. And that's why I think it's so important for us to understand what it takes, the tenacity, everything that it takes to be successful. Because I think we all have the ability. But it's application, it's support, it's circumstances. There's a lot of reasons why a lot of things are not happening. But as I continued to read the book, it was very interesting because he explains how he earned his reputation as one of the most respected men in the hip-hop business. And he said one of the things was staying true to 3 principles. And one of them was loyalty and commitment to what you're doing, what your cause is. What is your cause? Identifying it and staying committed to it. And that's what I said earlier. We have to have execution dates on whatever it is that we're doing. And he said his faith in God. He had so many adversities. And it just doesn't matter what you're battling. Because there is a systematic cycle of poverty in a lot of the lower economic areas. And when we say systematic, are we saying, are these things systematically in place? Now, that's a question that each individual have to ask themselves. And that's what goes back to what I'm saying. We can be in a poverty-stricken situation, but we can still improve it. We can improve it. As a consumer, as a person, house to house, block by block. I'm going to continue to speak on that because until we enact something that's going to change, and not through our political system, and no disrespect to any of our political leaders, but our ghettos have been ghettos for a very long time. And I don't understand what it would take for Washington to say, okay, you know what? let's do just like they do with gentrification. When they gentrify an area, they clean it up, they switch it up, they change it, they put in what they, proper, what they want to have in it. I noticed the Five Guys that's in the neighborhood where I'm at presently. When you start seeing different restaurants coming in, you know a change is really coming because the economic change is coming. Five Guys is just a burger stand. But I took my son there once, and man, I was at $30. Just two people at a burger joint, a hamburger and fries, no extras. We had hamburgers, fries, and a drink, and it was well over $30. So I'm just saying that when you start seeing the gentrification, if they can come in and gentrify your area, you can do it yourself. You can clean up your own area. And until we get that in our minds that we are responsible for our neighborhoods, for our communities, we are going to be stuck in with this poverty thing. And I know it's deeper than that. I know it's a lot of economic factors. I know there's a lot of things that go into it. It's just not as easily said as done. Because first of all, we got to start with the mindset of the people. If the people have been accustomed to living this lifestyle in this particular way, then it's difficult to reprogram, 20, 30, 40 years of nonsense. If an individual walks outside of your location of where you live and you don't have nothing inside of you to tell you, let me get this trash up, then that means that you're just comfortable with what it is. And we have to get we have to make sure that our people are now no longer comfortable with living in certain conditions. And each one teach one, each one help one, and if we pull this thing together as a whole, it could happen. And I think that's part of what Nip was doing. But back to the Prince book, and Nip's corner still there. The book was started off very interesting. He had to fight against the cycle of poverty, the record label executives. He said corrupt DEA agents. He said that respect is something that's not given, it's earned. And he analyzed the art and the science of earning respect. Now, people might not really understand that, but at the end of the day, it is how we conduct ourselves. It is the lessons that we learn, that we push through, that we understand things. I know he didn't understand what respect is and the science of it when he first started. But after dealing with so many adversities and so many different situations, it put him in a mindset where, okay, you know what, I have to do this differently, and that's what he did. And that's James Prince, who wrote this book that I got off of Nip's list. So I think it's interesting that we do read, because through that reading, like I said, we will get a better understanding of not only other people's situations, but how to better assist ourselves within our own situations. And once we start getting this knowledge, we start passing it on, and it just spreads like wildfire. I remember growing up, there were no cell phones, no texting, none of that, just regular house phone. But you better believe we knew where everything was going on. We knew where everybody was meeting at. We knew bike rides, where to meet. We just knew, because the word of mouth was just, it beats anything. Well, they used to say the streets are talking. Or we would walk down the street, we knew where everybody was because everybody's 10-speed was at somebody's house. But, there were just different form of communication, but we knew, we had got a lot of information. So if we can just still apply those principles today to pass on good, positive information, it's important that we do that. It's super important. But I just want to say the marathon continues, and that I'm so proud of everything that this brother has done. And just starting off with this book with the Prince, I mean, it was so informative. He was just came up one of the toughest, baddest ghettos that there is, But he actually, under the label, he did have quite a few stars up under there. He had the Ghetto Boys, Pimp C, Bum C, Slim Thug, and it just went on. But the book is about what you can do, and that's what everything else is about, is what you can do. What are you capable of doing? Understanding your capability and how to move in this society to get it achieved. So that was my whole thing with Nip, just moving through the society and getting things achieved. And, of course, he had a team. And I never want to say, that he couldn't, no way he could have did all this by himself. So that's why a team is efficient. It's important. Let's go. It's important first because it makes things become more efficient. Let's go there, okay? I had the young filmmaker on a couple weeks ago, and he talked about his team. And I watched that brother grow up over the years. I watched him with the 25 coming into the showcase or coming into a performance with all these people, and he narrowed it down to 5. But I watched him transform his life, and I think that's the most important thing is the transformation. And the team. And he said he has a really good team. 5. And all of those people have a job. So I'm just saying that, touching base on that, because it is your team. And Nip had a pretty cool team around him. Sam, I think, his brother, silent mover, but I think Sam is awesome, smart and intelligent as well. And he was part of that team. Okay, so I'm going to move on. Morris Media Live Studio. Next Convo with Brenda. We're running live. If you have any questions or you want to call in, you can always call in at 323-293-3375. And the call-in number again is 323-293-3375. You can watch it after the show's live on YouTube, Morris Media Studios. We're running the whole program after that. Then we also have www.morrismedialive.com. So we're trying to make it happen. And I want to say that I'm looking forward to it. Beginning of September, we are having an expression session for our youth. And that stimulated out of the whole Nipsey thing. I wanted to do a women's conference, but I felt like there's so many of women conferences going on that maybe I can flip it and we can do something a little bit different to understand the youth in the community, where they're going. So that's coming live in September. And that's the expression session for us to, let's just start somewhere. And I think with our youth is an important place to start with our young people. I need for them to understand that they have options, they have choices. And the purpose of that is to allow them that if there's a struggle or anything going on, we want to help. I want to help. And the team that I'm putting together for this expression session, they want to help. Because we have to start somewhere. And I think with our youth is one of the places. The age is really hard because you really want to start teaching and training our children from the time that they're 3. Actually out the womb. But, it gets complicated. So I just had to pick a situation and say, okay, I want to help in this area. And I felt with the youth it's important because they will be the new lawmakers, the new decision makers, the new judges. But they need to know that they can be the new architects. That was one of the things I loved about NIP and the Viacom. It was allow people to communicate and access information around the world. And with the youth talking around the world on what they could do, OMG, man, right mindset, a lot of changes could really happen. But as I was looking through information to get different stories, I found so many different things that are happening around the world. And one of the things is I was waiting for a call back on this particular story, and I wanted to put it off, but it was so important that I felt that I need to push on with it. I read this, someone sent me this article. It was about a shop owner. And the shop owner was a non-black individual and called one of the shoppers, a young girl there, the N-word. Normally what happens is they will be disrespectful, rude, and we go push on, and we still continue to patronize their shops. We still continue to give our money. But this particular instance, the community said, okay, that's enough. They band together, and they refuse to shop at that particular location again. Now that particular business is now out of business because you cannot be in a African-American Spanish neighborhood and be disrespectful. Along piggybacking off of my respect with James Prince this morning. You cannot be that disrespectful and we're still giving our money to you. Because we are 1.7 trillion strong, last I checked. African-American spending power. So they shut the whole situation down. And I think that needs to be the way it needs to go. From the nail shops to the hair places to anywhere where there's a non-African American person that's doing business and they're being rude and disrespectful to the majority of the clients, which are African American or Spanish. Okay, so if you want to talk to one person like that and call somebody the N-word or any form of disrespect, we don't need to spend our dollars there. And we need to look a little bit more closely into that type of situation. If we're going to give you our money, then we should be respected, period. And there's a lot of circumstances and a lot of situations, a lot of things happen, and African American people are not always innocent or didn't do anything or whatever. I'm not saying that. Wipe the slate clean. If someone's disrespecting you, then I understand disrespect back. Although they say you shouldn't, but I'm a firm believer, if you slap me, you deserve to get slapped back. That don't mean I want to get into a full all-out brawl. But I don't want to be disrespected, and I don't think it's okay to be disrespected and turn the other cheek, and I'm going to forgive you. Because that word forgive is really huge. And they say, okay, I can forgive you, but I'm not going to forget. I mean, I get that statement too, and I'm not taking anything away from that. I'm just saying that I just prefer not to deal with you. Unless it's a working environment and I'm forced to. But if we do things right, we're not forced to do anything because we all have choices. But it's how we set our choices up to be able to make better choices. But I think that's very disrespectful to call the girl the N-word. But I'm waiting for the response on this because I really did want to know where this actually happened at. And we need to understand that, and really, really understand that they're in business because of us. If we can ride up and down in our neighborhood and see people that are not the same color running businesses, then there has to be a respect level. And we're giving them money and they're making money and they're not putting it back in our neighborhoods. Or otherwise, it might look a little bit different. But if you open up a shop in the neighborhood and you live in another location, you're not spending your money in the location on where you're doing business. You're taking it back to where you reside. So our neighborhoods will never see the fruit of the income turnover because we're supporting others. Now, I'm not saying if you get good service to shut a place down. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying that other businesses cannot be in the area. All I'm saying is if you're going to have a business in a highly African-American neighborhood and Spanish neighborhood, then you should be respectful of your clientele. But if you don't, I really love what they did. They shut it down. And that's making a bigger statement than protesting, than marching, than cussing them out, going crazy. No, a bigger message was, okay, you're not going to respect us, so now you no longer deserve to get our dollars. And they went out of business, according to the article. But what they did was they just sent me the article. I didn't get the top of it or the closing part of it. So I did request for them, please send me the additional information on where this happened at and when this actually happened. But it was just really good and really very refreshing to see that with islands, without a care, they put down. And we need to do more of that. Because they're taking our money and not being respectful and not putting the money back in our neighborhood. Okay, so then I read another interesting story that happened in Chicago. Oh, and this is kind of difficult because it's dealing with the police. And my thing with them is always looking at the situation from a bird's eye view, a different angle. But the alarm had went off at this one residence in Chicago, and the police came, and it was a pretty well-to-do neighborhood. And they made it to the house, got in, and there was an 11-year-old girl in the bed. They tackled her, to the ground and held her at gunpoint. Obviously, she lived there. She was African American. She lived there. And the two officers just really went ham in on an 11-year-old girl. I'm not understanding what their training is. I mean, maybe there needs to be a real conversation with the LAPD and the community. I hosted another show last week with one of the young ladies here at Morris Media, and she said that she's community-based involved. But I think what needs to happen is that we need to hook up with the cops in the community. Because what is the training for you to go into a home and tackle an 11-year-old girl out of the bed? Now, we have to look at it from another perspective. Could have been a setup. The girl could have had a gun. I mean, a lot of things could have happened from their perspective. But I do believe that the training the police have is played out. They need to revise it. You know, being a cop is not an easy job. Your life is on the line every day. And right now in 2019, people are just not afraid of the police as they used to be. So people might hold court right there on the spot. They don't know, you know. And I know it's being cautious, but just for them to a gunpoint, that's a very horrible experience for an 11-year-old to have a gun put to her head. That's just, it could have been my 11-year-old, my 9-year-old granddaughter from that perspective. Then the other perspective is that the police, I believe, needs to have new training on how to deal with the people a lot better. You can't go in there on an 11-year-old girl and just have her tackled to the ground with a gun to her head. What's that going to do to her mentally? It's not normal for someone to have a gun to anyone's head, and that could traumatize this child. Of course, the cops, you know, they did get reprimanded, and they were suspended because they also had... The one thing I like about the disciplinary action that took place with these police was that they actually went back into their files and found out that they had had some other incidents. And that's why it's so important to report the incidents. And that's why the pen is so powerful. If you notice, whenever you're working on a job, you have what they call evaluations. Because they can beat you really bad with that pen, almost as bad as they can beat you with their mouth. And so they did check into James Fiesta and John Ridden, and they both had already had some disciplinary problems. So they were released, and that was a good thing. But at the same time, I think the training with the police, I'm going to stick with that. It needs to be a little bit different. They need to do something different. They need to have training with the police and the community together so they can have different scenarios and understand how to handle them properly and how to disengage situations without gunplay. Because I was thinking, I saw one incident on there where the police on one of the little, I was trolling one of those websites, and the police had these heavy-duty tasers. So I'm thinking, why not just tase the person instead of shooting them? The taser knocked this dude down. And if you have that kind of power in a taser, why not just tase them opposed to pulling the gun and actually pulling the trigger? I don't know, just things that need to be discussed between community and police. And I was at a church last Sunday, and there were officers that did come in and say that they do want to bridge the gap between the police officers and the community. And I thought that was very fascinating. And I'm going to do a little bit more research with that and follow up with it. And I would love to have one of the officers even at the expression session, because they have to have a relationship with the community in order for them to have understanding. You know, it's just like when you go to school and you get your book knowledge. It's so important. But once you get on the job, there's a whole different training going on. So we need to interact a little bit more with the police in the community to get some type of relationship where they understand that it's just not pull a gun out and kill. We're not just here to be shot and killed. And I want to go back to the story. I'm going to close out on the Chicago story. I was really happy that the officers were dismissed and that they took that type of measurement instantly. So we can't say that every single situation the police get off and they, they can write a report and put their stuff up under the carpet and get away with all this misjustice. So they are working with trying to improve the relationships. And that's one example of the cops not being able to walk away without being reprimanded or without there being some type of penalty for their behavior. So the police are here to serve and protect. And I want to go a little bit into, I saw this really interesting story. Well, actually, I saw a clip of Lisa Ray, and she was talking, and so I said, okay, let me see what she's talking about. And she was talking about Nicole Murphy. And this is a real tough one for me, too, because as a woman, from a woman's perspective, viewing this situation, and from that perspective, it made me think one thing, and then just thinking as just a woman, period. When I say a woman's perspective, I mean a mother with children or getting older, you're in this life. So let me give you a little bit about it so you can understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, so Lisa Ray was talking stuff about Nicole Murphy because she felt that she had interfered with her marriage and messed with her husband, Nicole Murphy. But before I say that, but I'm going to go a little bit more. So Nicole Murphy was also caught on tape kissing, I cannot pronounce her name completely, but it's Leila Roshan, who is married to the film director, Antonio, I'm just going to spell his last name. Yes, Antoine Fuqua. She's married to him. And there is this picture of Nicole kissing her husband. And Nicole is supposed to be her friend. I mean, she broke bread at her house. They had a relationship, a friendship. And now this picture is surfing all over the internet of your friend kissing your husband. That right there is very, very touchy. Why Nicole would do such a thing? People would want to know. Why would you do that? That's your girlfriend. You broke bread at her house. You know her. Why would you kiss her husband and start the side fling with him? But the bigger question to me is, why would the husband kiss her? Everybody's jumping all over Nicole about it. But I didn't read too much feedback about him. And then why is he not being held just as responsible as Nicole is? And Lisa was like, she has a reputation of doing this and that. And I don't think anybody could really talk about messing with somebody else's man or doing something that's not of a great nature, because I think all of us have done things that we could possibly say that we're not really proud of, even Lisa Ray. So to come down on Nicole that hard, I mean, she's a single mom looking for her man, and if your man is participating, then why not attack him? Why is there so much heat on her? That's a question I asked myself over and over yesterday as I read these articles about Nicole. Why are we so willing to attack her so quickly, but I didn't hear no feedback? My husband, he did this, or my husband did that, from Lisa Ray or Leila. It's Makosa this or that. When I say this or that, you can imagine what kind of name she's being called. She's a homewrecker. But I think it takes two to participate. I don't know the circumstances of neither one of those marriages, but the men obviously participated. And I think that should be addressed. If you know you're a married man, then why are you getting involved with the woman that you know, for the one who is friends with her? Why would you get involved with your wife's friend? I think some type of responsibility and backlash they have to take it, and they need it. I'm not making an excuse for Nicole's behavior, because only she know why. Why would you break bread and then turn around and on film? You can say it's not me, but the picture's showing that's you kissing this man this lady's husband. So my whole thing about that article was simply, I think that the men need to be accountable. Not that they haven't been, and I'm sure there's some backlash in the home. I'm sure that there's no way that they could be inside, there's some, fussing and arguing going on, but just the public. All the comments I read was so focused on Nicole. So we need to ask ourselves, in a situation like that, who is really responsible? Both parties? Oh, the wife, you're not being a good wife, you're not satisfying your man because he's looking somewhere else. That could be a possibility. He's a player. That could be a possibility. Or she's just looking so fine and so good, I just had to have her. I mean, whatever it is, but we just have to look at it from all perspectives. They did put a picture up of Nicole and Leela and him. And I thought that was kind of horrible because Leela looked like the wife that has gotten comfortable. She was beautiful. I loved her in Harlem Nights. A couple other movies I can remember her in, but that was my favorite with her in it. But she's not looking like that right now today. So do you open up your door to your girlfriends and say, hey, come in, let's have a party, let's chill with your man? Now, would it be considered insecure if you said, okay, no, I'm not having my man around these, all this? Because it's bad enough he's a director, so he's running across women all the time. And he directed some pretty high-profile movies, Equalizer 2. Equalizer. One of the ones I love, he directed her husband, Antoine, was Bait, with Jamie Foxx in it. I love that movie. He has a long list of movies that he has done. But so he is around all type of women and all type of things. But do you invite your girlfriends in and chill? Because the loyalty line has been broken completely. There's no more loyalty. Because Nicole, I do think that she needs to take complete responsibility. There's so many men in this world. You have to deal with your girlfriend's husband? You're a bomb chick. You look good. I don't know what your mental is, but outwardly, there's so many men out here until you have to do that. That was just disgusting to me. It was just really disgusting. But I also felt that the guys need to take some heat for that too. You need to be checked. You're going to kiss your wife's close friend. You're being camera public. You already know. You can't go anywhere without somebody pulling out a cell phone with clicking a picture and all that. So that should be off top in your mindset. And if you were going to do something like that, it should have been a discussion. And it should have been somewhere privately. It shouldn't happen if it's your girls do, period. But if you were going to do something like that, you should have a little bit more sense to know that you don't just tongue down your girl's friend in public. I just want to bring that to the forefront to say that women, our loyalty level to each other is slipping fastly. There used to be a rule. When I was growing up, there was a rule. You don't talk to your girl's dude. I don't care if they broke up. I don't care what's going on. This is your girl. I'm not about to mess with her dude. Ex or whatever. There's no way. Because at some point, it's going to raise different questions in the back of your mind no matter what. Even if they break up and you talk to her later, it's going to be, were they messing around when we were together? I mean, it's just all type of stuff. But I just felt that the guys need to be a little bit more accountable, and that's from Lisa Ray's husband, ex-husband, to this Antoine guy, the director. Be responsible for your actions. I didn't see a public apology. I didn't see him apologizing to his wife publicly for doing that. Not that that is going to make it better, but at least it shows some type of value, morals. But, the little director, he did the Magnificent Seven, which I like that too. And I mean, he's really good. He's pulling his weight up behind that camera for real. And then that's going to lead me into this other story I want to talk about, because I believe it was 9 years ago that the NBA player Lorenzo Wright was shot and killed. and they couldn't figure out what happened. Finally, after all this time, the wife was involved. And she hired a deacon from a church to assist her with it. And then it was a cousin called Jimmy Martin who was convicted of murder in a separate case. And he was in prison. And so he was the one that linked the story and described what happened and how everything happened all these years ago. Maybe she wasn't paying him off enough. Maybe he didn't get his money, but he wound up telling on her and the deacon. And now the wife is in jail. This is after he died. She's remarried. She was going back and forth with his father about the life insurance for their children, and they've been in a big battle. So they had a settlement, and she was moving on with her life, but come to find out, she was involved. It just does not make sense. Why would you want to murder your husband instead of just walking away? You had already been married to him for so many years. You already had children. All you had to do was just walk away. But you want to kill him and then move on with your life. I don't get it. I really don't get it. You could have just walked away. Now, the cousin struck a deal and told all the information, where to find the gun, how it was planned, all that. So Sharia Wright and the deacon, his last name was Turner, he showed the inmate, the cousin, told him how he helped him clean up the murder scene. Everything. If you're going to do anything, I mean, I'm not advocating murder to anybody, but I don't understand why somebody would do something like that with other people, because eventually somebody's going to talk and tell and say something. All they did was offer him time off of the time he's serving or whatever, and he spilled the beans on her, and so now she's in jail. But the cool part about that is that this guy's life is taken, and she's only getting 9 years. That's crazy to me. She's getting 9 years, and that's it. And more in the family news, I was reading another article that I found was so interesting because I remember Tisha Campbell and Dwayne Martin are getting a divorce. But I remember her leaving the Martin show because she was being harassed by Martin. Now, her husband is Dwayne Martin, not the same Martin as Martin Lawrence. So she left that show. She married this guy. And according to her paperwork and the things that she's saying is that he is an absolutely mental and physical abuser. She didn't want to tell anybody because of who she is and who they were, and she was trying to keep it under wraps, and she wanted to try to see if they could resolve it. But here this guy is really abusing her. Well, not anymore because now she's in divorce court. But that's back to us as women and just anybody, period, because women are not the only people that get abused. I've seen a couple men get pretty beat up. I mean, he physically and mentally is abusing her. She is really have went through a lot, and I feel for her so much because to try to keep something like that under wraps is very difficult. Mental abuse, you know, I was like, okay, mentally abusing her. And I understand what that is, but as I read the article, she was saying the things that he was saying to her. And it was just awful. He is a monster. And I hate to prejudge, but I just know that this woman would not sit up here and just lie. Because I met him a couple times, and he was very rude. And I'm not going on her side just because he was rude. He wasn't rude to me, but I saw him being rude to others as I was observing him at the little Zen club that they had up in, I don't know, was it Hollywood or somewhere? They had the Zen club there. And I watched him, and he was really rude. But I feel for her, and I hope wish the best for her, because I think she is a really beautiful person and has a little beautiful soul. But to try to tolerate a brother that's so angry, telling her, you know, that she can't get roles because she's fat and she might as well just go ahead and get on the fat girls list. and start looking for work as a fat girl. Just mean, cruel things. Like, jeepers, not only enough that you're beating her, but you have to mentally beat her down as well, according to her. So with that, I'm saying that we need to seek help. If you're in a situation, abusive situation of any kind, you need to seek some serious help. And not even for the abuser, but for yourself. Because the question we have to ask ourselves is, why would we stay in a relationship that is not healthy for us? And I do believe in the transformation of life. And I do believe that we're here to change. So the saying, oh, that's just the way I am, or I'm, set in my ways, that's unacceptable to me. Change is inevitable at whatever age you are. There's no way you can't look at life and see that it is about change, because we're constantly growing. You grow from a little kid to an adult. That's a constant change going on right there before your eyes. So once we get to an adult, the change stops. We might not physically be able to change, but we mentally can change. And if you can change yourself mentally, I think that is powerful. Yes, we are accustomed to certain things. Yes, we do get stuck in our ways. Yes, we do accept certain behaviors. Yes, we do give certain behaviors. But the bottom line is, are we being the best people that we can be, especially to those people that are around us? I do not want to walk in the house every day and somebody's being mean to me. I don't care who it is. I'm going to run. Because I'm not going to be that way with you. Now, we all get angry. We all get upset. Please don't misunderstand what I'm saying. But we all have to learn how to deal with our anger and our madness in a healthy way. Our black men need help and our black women need help. We all need help. Because we will front to the end. We will pretend and be fake for real. Just to look good on the outside, just what she said, just so that it wouldn't appear to other people that she's living in this nightmare. But don't care about what other people think or say. You have to live your life to be happy within yourself, and the only person who can make you happy is yourself. You can't stay in a situation where somebody is mentally and physically abusing you and being mean or cruel to you. We all deserve the best. And I know it's a lot, and I know it sounds, it sounds extremely easy to say that not to be in this situation, because there's a lot of factors. It's money involved. It's, you've made this commitment. But the most important thing is your sanity and your well-being in your life. And sometimes we have to give up some things to get some things. And sometimes the things that we're walking away from, or that we're leaving behind, or that we know that is not good for us, for whatever reason we try to hang on to it, we need to realize that it's better. It's something better for you. I think what Nip said the other day is surround yourself around better people. We just think that it should be this way, but it doesn't necessarily make it right or make it true that it's better. Walk away from that stuff. Walk away from it. And you'll find with just a little belief in yourself and whatever your faith is, that you will do so much better. We can no longer live in fear on no level. We can't be a fear of not having, fear of what someone else is going to say, fear of not achieving. Fear is not a part of your growth, because we cannot grow if we are afraid. And I've been in situations where I've been nervous and a little scared, like what's going to happen? Oh my God, this or that. But what I did realize is once I pushed through it, that it's better. It's better. And that's what we want. We want better. We want to surround ourselves with better. And it just broke my heart to hear that she lived this many years in this turmoil. She worked for many years, and I was just so upset with the brother. I'm like, okay, Brenda, why are you mad? This is not your life, okay? But it just affected me because I'm feeling like, jeepers, here's this personality that we look at or we've seen on television, and every day you living in hell. We don't have to do that, man or woman. We have to get better. You have to want better for yourself. And better is being in a situation that you know is uncomfortable and it's not good for you, and getting out of it. That's better. Just like the Cherie Wright who shot her husband. Okay, so he didn't know that this girl was going to blow his brains out, but obviously something was going on in that situation. And for whatever reasons, we hang on to stuff. We can't. That brother should have walked away before she shot and killed him. You know, when there's unrest in your environment, when there's tension, turmoil, and not togetherness, you have to make some hard decisions. And part of that is either it is really a workable situation where it can get fixed. It can be fixed. Or it's not. And usually deep down inside, we know what that real answer is, whether we acknowledge it or not. I'm going to make this work because of whatever reason, our own selfish motives. But if it's not working for you internally, and nobody but you know internally when something is nagging at you, something is not right, and we still push through it to satisfy others. No, we can't do that anymore. Find yourself, find your soul. Know who you are on purpose. And settle for nothing less. You don't have to settle. It might be a little uncomfortable. It might not be what you're accustomed to or what you're used to, but change is necessary. It's inevitable. Because it's about growth and development and transformation. And we never stop growing mentally if we feed our minds. I have one more thing I want to talk about, but the time is nearing. And next week I will hit you with the Black Law Dictionary. And I would recommend everyone getting one, because I'm not going to let that go either. I'm not going to stop talking about us learning the law and understanding it. I was listening to my two youngest children yesterday have a conversation about driving and what is our right to drive. Once we sign those documents, which I'll go into more next week, once we sign over to get a driver's license, then we say driving is a privilege. But I was just listening back and forth to the conversation. One of them was saying, listen, we don't have to have a driver's license. Pulled up cases from the Supreme Court, pulled up information out the law dictionary. And I'm definitely going to share that with you guys next week. Because my daughter, she is an advocate for understanding your rights. And so now we are breaking down the Constitution, and we are going over dealing with amendments, and we're dealing with Black Law, with the Black Law Dictionary, which is understanding the law. So I will be introducing a corner of that each week, because it's important that we understand. And if I'm going to tell someone else to go look up the laws and share them, then I need to do that myself. So that would be one of the new segments, is making sure that we do have information about the laws that in the country, the state, and the city in which we live in. It's important that we know that. But I want to say it's been such a pleasure. I've had a great day. It's Morris Media Live, and I'm Brenda, and we're going to say Next Level Convo with Brenda. And we're going to go out. I want to do one last thing and thank my son for the beat, the amazing beat. I love the music, son. It's really bumping. I don't know if the audience get to hear it or not, but I know I do. So before the show comes on, I'm loving it. And that beat was done by Q Karan. Thank you so much. And I'm out.